The bandwidth for this episode of the AR-15 podcast is sponsored by the Firearms Radio Network. FirearmsRadio.tv.
Welcome to episode number 58 of the AR-15 podcast. I'm your host, Reed Snyder, and with me today is Derek Miller. This is the podcast for your favorite black rifle. This show is for you whether you're building your first AR or you've been building ARs for years. There is something we can all do to take our black rifle to the next level. Derek, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Disappointed I didn't get to go to the SHOT Show last week.
Well, I think that gives us an opportunity then to compare notes. You can tell me about all the things you wish you'd been able to see, and I'll gloat a little bit about all the things I did see.
Perfect.
I know that's kind of a bit of torture for you, but
A little bit. This is three in a row now that the Marine Corps has prevented me from going to. I managed to make it to, I think, 5 SHOT Shows in a row, and then the Marine Corps said, yeah, you're going back on active duty. We're going to tell you what to do every January, so you're not allowed to go to that anymore. So,
well, why don't we start with our Otis Ripcord giveaway, and let me let you know that for times in the field when you just can't reach your Otis cleaning system and need a quick and effective clean, reach for the Ripcord. This convenient tool cleans from breech to muzzle in one quick and easy pass. The molded rubberized core and Nomex fibers together create a more effective way to trap and remove fouling. So this week's winner is Kirby K. He writes in, "Hi Reed. I thought I would send you a picture of my first build." He details it as a Rock River Arms lower, spikes lower parts kit, spikes buffer and stock, Ice Arms upper, Ice Arms XO, NIB, M16 bolt carrier group, Griffin Trading, 16-inch 1-8 twist stainless steel barrel, diamond head handguard and flip sights, and finally a Troy medieval muzzle brake. He says, "I enjoy listening to the show. Thank you for all the good insight and bad. Enter me in any contests you might be running." Well, we just decided to go ahead and enter you in this one, Kirby. So you're this week's winner in our Otis Ripcord giveaway. So congratulations. When you get a chance to do so, follow up with an email and let us know what your address is, and we'll get that right on out to you. So, Derek, that reminds me of one of the things we saw out there. We stopped by the Diamond Head booth and took a look at some of their stuff, and I'm pretty impressed. They have an offset sight that has the ability to kind of nest under the flip-up magnifier for the EoTech sights. Okay. And it will swing clear and wide of that and go into its positive stationary point there, and because it's off center and it's kind of dangling out there in the middle of nowhere in a pretty high position, so you can get a good cheek weld and still get your eye on them. Mm-hmm. They've decided to make the sights, I guess, spring loaded, so if you bang them on any kind of a external obstacle or barrier, they're going to kind of deflect and fold back in and spring back into place when they're clear. So
that is a pretty good idea.
So they kind of avoid some of the snag hazards you might have with something dangling out there on the side of your rifle.
Yeah, definitely. That's not a bad idea.
So he was explaining that they're trying to get some of these into the military, and maybe we can have you send them a request for a review or something. Yeah, absolutely.
So they're like 45-degree canted offset sights?
Yep. And we reviewed a set, and I know that the review was done by Steve, and it's up on the Firearms Insider Gear Review site. But when he canted the rifle on its 45 axis, you could not get low enough to get your eyes on those targets and line them up. So they're absolutely useless. But these, they're designed to truly take that center axis of the bore and repeat it all the way back across the sight axis, and have it high enough so that at that 45-degree angle with your cheek, on the rifle, you're still able to line up the sights and get a good sight picture.
Were the ones that he tested, were they fold-out ones as well?
No, they were permanent offset.
I've got direct defense permanent offset ones, and I don't have a problem getting low enough on the gun for them, but I wish that they did fold, because like you said, that's the only problem that I've had with them is going through like barricade drills and stuff like that, is that's a weird place to have something sticking off the gun, so if I'm not thinking about it, I'll catch it up on a window or something like that.
Right.
I have to pull out and go back in. So that's interesting. I'd like to play around with them.
So there you go. Go to Diamond Head and take a look at their folding sights, their offsets. They're really kind of a good design on that, and I don't think I saw anything that was its like or its equal at the show. So let's move on. Brownells helps make this show possible. They are there for you anytime you make a mistake, or like when Jake shoots a spring across the room into his lime green shag carpet. We keep telling Jake he needs to get something a little more contemporary, but he doesn't listen. So just remember, shop for AR-15 parts at Brownells. Go to ar15podcast.com/AR-15 parts to get your gateway to Brownells parts. So, Derek, why don't you fill us in on this week's tip of the week? It's something that you and I talked about.
Yeah, I'm going temporary additional duty to the range here in a couple of weeks for probably about a month and a half or more to shoot the Marine Corps Competition in Arms program, which is a small arms competition designed to foster some higher level training that we would normally get by competing against other Marines with the small arms that we use, the M9 Beretta 92 service pistol and the M16 A4 at this point. And basically we shoot CMP, the Civilian Marksmanship Program rules, and we start off with a intramural match and then a Marine Corps match, and then we go to a division match, which is actually open to civilians. So the tip of the week is, I didn't know this until last year when we had about a half dozen civilians show up to shoot the match, but if you want to shoot in the Marine Corps Competition Arms Program division matches, there's an order out that very explicitly spells out how to sign up for it, and I have that order that I'm going to send in so we can get it posted. But basically, you have to do is show up. You send in an application basically ahead of time with some form of ID so that we can run a background check and make sure that we're not letting somebody crazier than your average Marine onto the base. And then once you've logged in, you go to the safety training classes and range safety stuff ahead of time or before we start shooting. But the weapon is provided by the Marine Corps. You get a base stock weapon issued to you from the armory, and all of the ammunition is provided. So and housing as well. I believe that if they charge anything, it's very minimal for the housing, but they'll put you up in the barracks if you want to live in a Marine barracks and not get a hotel room. I wouldn't recommend it.
Well, unless you're trying to take a stroll down memory lane.
Sure, if you want to live on the barracks in Stone Bay to relive the glory days of being in a 3 to a room and it's about 10 feet square, then by all means. But I would recommend just getting a hotel out in town. It'd be better for your sanity and probably for your health as well.
Yeah, that is true. Marines know how to clean, but that's only because they know how to mess some stuff up.
Yeah, definitely. And these are old, decrepit barracks that nobody lives in anymore, so I'm not sure that I would want to go stay there.
Well, that's a good tip. It's something that I've always wanted to do, is get back into a place where I can, shoot like we were taught to shoot in the Corps. And of course, I think the CMP's rules are the closest to that course of fire that I've ever come across. And I think that that's kind of the foundation of most of the service rifle match competitions, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that just about everything that the CMP did was either adopted by the military or vice versa. The original military qualifications were translated into CMP rules, because it is very similar to course of fire. 200 standing, 200 rapid, 300 prone, 300 rapid, 500 prone, or 300 sitting and rapid, and 500 prone, and that's all there is to it. And it's the same stuff that you shoot when with all the service rifle matches. Is the same thing that we're going to do out there. So, like I said, if you can do it with somebody else's gun and free ammo, then why not? So,
absolutely.
Yep.
Well, so on to our main topic. So, Derek, you didn't get to go, and I did. So I thought we could just kind of do a little discussion about what we can take away from SHOT Show, and you can highlight the things that came to your attention, and I'll highlight some of the things that came to my attention, and we'll just kind of go through it bit by bit and see what we can come up with.
Sure.
So have you seen any of the press about FN's new AR-15?
Yes, they're very plain Jane, which there's nothing wrong with. My question is, what's the price point? Do they have an MSRP while you're out there?
Yeah, it's $11.50, which I think is a pretty good price point.
Yeah,
considering
what you're getting. Yeah, it's going to be. Yeah, I think I talked about this. I think on the Gun and Gear review. I have a feeling that FN is going to be the new industry standard, like Colt has been for so long.
Right.
Because they are making the military's guns now, and they have been for years.
You do you carry a M4?
Yeah, we had an M4 and an M16A4 that is assigned to me. So.
And it's got the FN scroll work on it.
Yep.
You know, I think really when it comes down to it, for so many soldiers, and for people who are familiar with the quality of their military side of the house, I mean, I think this is just like opening the keys at the candy store for the average civilian AR enthusiast and saying, you know, Willy Wonka is telling him, what do you want?
Yeah. And this is going to be, if you want a mil-spec gun, this is now the mil-spec gun. You know for sure that this is it. That's exactly what it is.
And, you know, I think that really when you start fielding them in numbers and you start getting the rifles coming into the market, I think that you might have some people going back to the drawing board and reevaluating what it is that they called military spec to make sure that they don't get left in the dust. All right, I think we have some technical difficulties here, Derek. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay, I think I accidentally hit a button on my cord here.
All right, now we're not revisiting the whole whiskey and marine show, are we?
No, we are not. It's a work night, so I'm drinking Samuel Adams. So.
All right, there you go.
I think that I was kind of surprised that FN that has them priced as low as they do, just because they are sometimes a little pricier. But right. That's a good thing for sure. And like I said, I have a feeling that within the next few years, if they come out with a bunch of them, and it's not like, hey, I want one. Okay, well, it's 6 months. Put your name on the list. If they start flooding the market with them, which they can, because they've got huge numbers of them coming off the production line, then there's no reason that that's not going to be the new, Colt 6920 or whatever. That exactly. That is the gun. If you want a stock AR right now, I think this new FN is going to be that in a couple of years. So.
Well, and I think the thing that occurred to me, we had a chance to talk to the product manager, and basically, the products that he is in charge of overseeing are all of the long rifles. And it seems to me, just through the discussion, through the inferences that you can pick up after talking with them, and the areas that they don't want to really commit anything, they don't want to commit to, I think they're going to come out with lines that are probably going to see penetration in all of the common places that we see ARs now. I'm sure they'll have a race gun. I'm sure they're going to have the railed guns, the different furniture on the guns. It's still going to be a core FN product, and it may very well be something innovative from their engineers that's going to try to kind of cement their own place in those areas. But then I think they're probably going to come out with some kind of a long-range tack driver, and I think they're going to come out with the 308.
Sure. I can't see why not, because they have the potential to dominate that market if they wanted to jump in, which obviously they do at this point. I think that the reason they haven't for so long is that they were selling so many guns to the military that it wasn't worth their time. And now that everything's scaling back, it's like, well, we've got all this production, facility, so we might as well just start selling to everybody. No reason not to. And so I think you're going to end up with a ton of them out there.
Now, here's the thing that I think inspires me. FN is not a company that's going to go out there and just make something for the sake of making it. If they've decided to jump in both feet, into the deep end with the big dogs on this deal, it's because they see longevity in the effort.
Yep, it's going to be worth their money that they're putting into it, because they're not going to waste it.
Yeah. I think that basically is something that should inspire us all to understand that, this segment of the market is not, in their opinion, in the opinion of the largest companies that manufacture these items, it's not disappearing. It's not going to go away. They have confidence enough to commit their dollars and their resources to the manufacturing and the design and the implementation of, distribution facilities to get these products out to us, the consumer, that they will go to all that trouble. I think that we all need to have a big hip hip hooray about that.
Yeah, I think FN was one of the last ones we were waiting for. A few years ago after Remington and Ruger started making ARs, and that's kind of when I knew it was like, well, this isn't going to be a niche thing anymore that
right.
that a few people are going to buy into. This has now become, like they say, it's America's gun now, is the AR-15. Which, like you said, it's a good thing for sure. That it's going to be a lot harder for people to try and to roll that clock back, kind of thing. So.
Well, here's another thing that I saw. It was an EoTech battery cap replacement laser. And I know that the military kit, you guys have visible IR and infrared IR lasers, don't you?
We have visible and infrared. The only time I've ever seen the visible laser used is for bore sighting it to your optic. No one, I can't say ever, but I would never let somebody that I had control of turn their visible laser on. It's stupid and not something you should ever use. The IR laser is fantastic because you can't use your NVGs particularly well with any kind of actual optic. You can do it. They have IR functions on some of those and it kind of works, but it's way easier to throw your NVG down, flick on your IR laser, put the dot on the bad guy and squeeze the trigger. When you know that he can't see your light, your laser on the end of your gun showing, and you don't see a bunch of dots bouncing around all over the place.
Right.
So IR laser makes sense. Visible laser does not make sense.
Well, tell me, do you think that the visible laser is something that has a civilian, a place in the civilian consumer market when we're talking about, home defense and, heck, it's the same reason people put lasers on the end of their pistols.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. So I personally no, I'm not a fan because I don't want. I just your red dot sight does the exact same thing. Right. But you're not having a dot bouncing around the room that somebody else can see potentially. Right. I don't understand there's so few applications that a visible laser would apply to that I don't see the point in spending hundreds of dollars for one.
Well, let's move on to the next one. And this is something that you have expressed an interest in, and something that I got an actual chance to talk to the developer and actually put hands on one. but it's the Robinson Arms XCR.
Yeah, I think this is cool. It kind of looks like a SCAR. When I first saw it, I thought it was just a SCAR knockoff, and then when I looked at it and realized who was making it, the owner or proprietor of Robinson Arms did some work with CRAE, which is the Navy Special Warfare Development Group's weapons development program. So I have faith in things that guy is building, basically, and I believe that this was their entry into the SCAR program. Because the SCAR isn't actually the name of FN's gun per se. It's the name of the military program that weapon was developed under, and then they adopted it when they won the contract. So this was another entry into that program, and I think it looks like potentially a better one. FN has a lot of pull though, and so because they're making everything else, so why not let them make the SCAR as well? So I feel like that's why they kind of won out on that. And this seems like a much better, a more reasonable price point for what it is, and has some features that I like that were a little better. For instance, it had the all metal stock and not polymer like the SCAR, which polymer is great, but I like steel. So
yeah, I'm a steel guy myself. You know, the thing that I thought that was amazing, and keep in mind, I have not ever really had an opportunity to handle a SCAR, but the way that they kind of reimagined the controls, your manual of arms, just seemed to take all of the things that are part of the AR and put them in places where you can kind of imagine they should have been put the first time.
Yep.
And it makes it for a much more tactily convenient handling system.
Yeah, they're taking all the stuff that normally you buy an AR and then you're going to bolt it on anyways, and just putting it into the gun. So like Magpul, the battery assist device, the bad lever that you're going to bolt onto your AR probably. They basically have that's just where the bolt catches. So why put this on and then have to bolt on another piece and kind of have it work and kind of not when we can just build it that way to begin with? Exactly. Or the weak side your operating rod bolt is center line of the frame and not pulling it back into your cheek with a T-handle. So just a lot of things that looked better designed, and it was 60 years of development since the AR came out, so you'd think that they could fix some stuff, but we're still
well, and I think that the AR is a mature platform. I mean, I think that there's still innovation available. I mean, we see that in people that are willing to reimagine the way parts of the AR should function, and they're going to be able to keep it growing, I think, for quite some time probably. But there is going to be a phase out and a phase in. I mean, we're still not. I mean, we're not using the M14s as a main battle rifle anymore. Yes, it has a place, but it's a very narrow place in that spectrum. We're not using the Garand anymore. We're not using the 1903 A3s. We're not using, Sharps rifles or muskets or whatever we were using in the Civil War. We evolve, we take the next step, we move on to a new idea, and it will happen to us eventually.
I think the AR is going to be the new 1911, where it's 103 years later and it's still around. There's nobody doing anything particularly crazy new that's like, oh my God, why did nobody think of that before? But it's still they still sell more 1911s than just about anything else. So
absolutely.
I think the AR is going to be that way. 50 years from now, you're going to be able to buy one that's not going to be anything particularly different than anything that came before, and there'll be people arguing about whether or not it's still the best thing out there.
So you put this down on the list, and this is something that I've had my eye out for a long time, and I did speak to somebody over there at Rock Rivers about it, but it's the Rock River Arms LAR-47. And so this is basically a Rock River Arms AR that has been modified to the point where it will accept AK magazines, and it will solve some of the feeding issues you're going to see in most any AR that's chambered in the 7.62 by 39. And this to me is kind of a must-have rifle if you don't want to buy an AK, if you don't want to buy an SKS, if you don't want to buy something Chinese.
They're expensive though. I just looked at the price.
They are expensive. But then again, you should probably be able to shoot in 3 or 4 inch groups with one of these instead of 3 or 4 foot groups.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Now, of course, you can't stick this in a bag of wet concrete and pull it out and fire it. But who's dumb enough to stick the rifle in a bag of wet concrete?
Kind of off topic, but have you heard of the Duffel blog?
No.
The Duffel blog is like Onion News. It's all fake news stories, but it's all military inspired stuff. And one of the Duffel blog articles that popped up when Mikhail Kalashnikov died just a month or so ago was developer of the AK-47 died. Russian plans to bury him in mud and clean him off in 3 days and put him back to work.
That's funny.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
There's a lot to be said for an AK, but as a platform, it's never appealed to me. I've never wanted to spend my money on one. And I mean, I don't know about you, Derek, and if you say you own a closet full of AKs, I'm not gonna badmouth you behind your back.
Yeah, I've got a couple, but it's more just because it was cheap. So.
Well, and I would think that I would have more of a draw to it than you because I was actually trained in the Marine Corps to fight against the Soviet aggressor, and while you guys were probably not.
Yeah. Well, and see. Well, we don't get well. Actually, that's funny because we still learn all of the Soviet stuff. A lot of my officer school things were like, okay, you're a platoon commander in the Fulda Gap. And the Russians are coming, and we all look around and are like, "Where's the Fulda Gap? Can we do Baikal Valley instead?"
And what is it?
Yeah,
T-97s.
Exactly. Yeah, T-72s. They're like, yeah, that was the thing. It was like they have a battalion of T-72s, and they're like, nobody has a battalion of T-72s except for Russia, and they're our ally now. Like, we're not gonna find anybody that does that.
That's hysterical.
But yeah, it's pretty funny. But yeah, actually, if you still I went to the foreign weapons course, foreign weapons instructor course, and it's still all Soviet bloc stuff. You do the G3. Yeah, we learn the FAL and the HK pattern rifles because you will run across those. But look at it, 90% of what you're going to come across is AK pattern stuff anywhere that you go.
Well, and so. Yeah. In most of the regions where the United States is currently at odds with somebody on a military basis, you're talking about an aggressor who has probably been funded and armed by someone from a current or former Soviet republic, if not Russia right now.
Yeah.
And so they're all shooting Russian gear.
Or you go to Afghanistan where they shot Russians and took them, which same in state. So.
Well, but I mean, then again, in Afghanistan, you still have, guys that are using rifles that were taken from British colonial troops, 150 years ago.
That's funny that you said that because a buddy of mine that just came back from Afghan was a team guy. He's a SEAL, and brought back. They demilled it so that it could be a bring back. But they took out a dude that had been taking pot shots at their fob for weeks, and it turns out when they smoked this guy, he had an infield, and from a 1895 infield, a single shot, black powder, and he was hand loading the stuff with no kidding black powder and lead bullets, and then every couple of days he'd just go out and take one shot at the fob, and he's got this rifle. It's got 100 years worth of carvings and stuff in the stock. It's pretty cool. But
there's what is the earlier one, the Martini Henry?
Yeah.
That old. I'm sure. I am almost positive that they're still shooting that. I think there are still some of those old You know that tribal region out there? I think there are still old armorers that are copying
Oh,
the Martini Henry and trying to
those
do
guys
them.
are crazy. They build AKs out of like car leaf springs and stuff. It's insane. That's up in the northeast part of Afghanistan, actually, over in the Pakistan side, and man, you see some of the stuff that comes out of there, and you're like, you're kidding me. Like, there's no way this wasn't made on a CNC machine. And then you see the pictures of the dude like with an anvil and he's like hitting it with a rock, like no kidding, and it's absolutely incredible. So, but yeah,
Wow.
we digress.
So let's see, Desert Tactical Arms. Now, why don't you fill us in on the Desert Tactical Arms, because that was one of the things that I did not get a chance to get my hands on.
Yeah, this is just something I was interested in having somebody take a look at. I'll have to take a look at it at NRA convention in April, I guess. But it looks like a better execution of the bullpup concept than most of them that I've seen. I personally don't really like the Tavor. I'm too tall for it, I feel like, and I felt like I was real crunched up on the gun the one time I got to play around with one. But I got a chance to shoot a DTA SRS a couple of times that a buddy of mine has, and it's an incredible rifle. So if somebody's going to make a bullpup battle rifle or intermediate cartridge rifle like that, then theirs would be one that I would want to take a look at. I just I feel like they're going to be a better one than some of the others that are out there. The only one I've really had a chance to shoot a lot was AUG, and it was junk, so I was not a fan.
I'm sitting here at the website, and the Desert Tactical Arms SRS A1 covert rifle starts at $3,000.
Yeah, that's the SRS is their bolt gun. That's normally in 300 Win Mag or 338 Lapua. This is the MDS, I believe is what it's called. The MDR, DTA MDR.
I know they came out with it, but you know what? I don't think they've updated their website with it.
I bet they haven't. I think it was a SHOT Show release, and they'll probably have it done soon.
Well, that's exciting news. I think we may have footage on it. You know, we had, I think we had 4 or 5 teams around the entire SHOT Show, and so I'm fairly sure somebody got their hands on it.
Yeah, it looks like they haven't updated it, and the only pictures are the one press release picture that they put out, and then ones that people took at SHOT Show. So I'm sure that they haven't updated their site yet.
Well, here's another one that I actually got a chance to get hands on that I think we both had mentioned, and it's the Tactical Fire Controls 3MR third mode trigger. And you know, there's been just a little bit of YouTube footage. I know that what is it, USM 4 put some of these triggers and some of their AR-15 pattern rifles, and you know, people are kind of trying to figure out what it's all about. So I actually got a chance to get on the range and talk to the engineer owner of the company who designed the rifle, designed the trigger system, and you know, it is a really innovative approach to getting more lead down range. And I will say that, you know, I think Derek and I both have the same opinion about the slide fire. It's not a choice that either of us would make. And by the same token, we both, I think, generally agree that, you know, a full auto rifle is kind of silly. It's a suppressive fire weapon, and really, who needs to, you know, suppress fire unless you're in a combat zone? But it is quick.
That's
Derek,
cool.
You want to say something?
I was going to say that there are very few applications where you could use full auto, but it is fun. So if this is something that's going to get me close to being able to do that,
yeah, without the $10,000 price tag.
Exactly. Or a goofy looking stock on my gun, then I might do it. So.
And
if
you
nothing
know,
else, you're still getting, what did you say the normal trigger pull in is? 4.5 pounds? So,
4.5 pounds.
and is that, and you're on the one that you played with, it was pretty good, like crisp and over travel and all that kind of
It was
stuff?
very crisp, very, very controllable.
So
But,
if nothing else, you're getting that out of it too. So
right. And here's the thing that I thought. Yes, it's going to take some practice for someone to get slide fire rates out of the trigger, but if you really want to have that mode, if you really want to have that kind of fire speed, then everybody's big objection is the price. At $495 on the price point, the way I thought of it is this: you're going to pay what, $395, $350 for a slide fire, and then you're going to go buy a nice $200 or $300 trigger for it, the AR. Well, that right there is more than this one trigger.
Yep.
And I can buy this one trigger, practice and get good at it, and then put any stock I want to on my rifle so I don't look silly.
yeah, exactly. I agree with that completely. That's the way I would look at it. If I'm going to spend $300 on a Timney or a Geisley trigger anyways, then but I want to be able to shoot fast maybe every once in a while for fun, then I'll spend a little bit of extra money and get one of these and have the same functionality basically.
Right. And I did hear a lot of people on some of the forums talk about how well you can get the Geisley's 3-gun trigger, and it's pretty quick, it's pretty responsive. Well, sure, anybody can get a really good trigger and try to get better at being quick, but this trigger helps somebody that is not going to have the kind of tuned reflexes of that kind of shooter get to that mode a lot faster.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know that it's for everybody. I do know that I'm going to get a review up on one, and we're going to just kind of put it through its paces and see. But I'm excited about it. I'm enthused about it because the one that I handled out there at Media Day was it was a fabulous trigger. All right, so our next item here is a rifle from Miller Precision Armament. And basically, I think in this arena there are 3 rifles that have reached the level that they can basically field the 300 Win Mag in an AR-10 platform. Miller Precision Armament being one of them. I know that everybody knows who one of the other ones is, and so we're not going to worry about this. But the MPA 300 Guardian is something I got a chance to shoot, and it was just amazing. It was a great rifle. Not so engineered that it strayed from that AR-10 platform to unrecognizable levels. I mean, it was what you would expect. It was a little beefier, but it was not so bulky and cumbersome that you couldn't get offhand with it. And the owner of the company, the fellow who basically demoed the product for me, I saw him take 10 rounds off the rifle, standing offhand, and he could control it. It has a big price tag on it, but I think understandably so. Anybody that's trying to get into that kind of caliber is going to have to do with some advanced engineering to allow you to shoot a 300 Win Mag through it.
Yeah, that's a pretty hefty cartridge. That's a lot of money, though. They're looking at almost $5,500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, the 5,500 is a kit. It's a pretty good kit.
Yeah, and it looks. Yeah, I was gonna say that looks like a pretty good setup, though. So, if it shoots, then I would say not a bad problem. Oh, and they'll finance it. So there you go. They get a button right on there that says "Click here for financing." So.
Yeah, well, that may be the only way that I can afford it. I'd have to hide it from my wife.
Yeah, no kidding. I would be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I think if I bought anything that would approach a small car that I could sit in my gun safe, my wife would have a real problem with that. But you know, it was a great shooting rifle. It was a precise rifle. You know, I was actually on the range and on the trigger and just smacking steel at 500, 450 yards, something like that. And I've got it on video, so nobody can call me a liar. But you know, just one after the other, ding, ding, ding. That thing is just awesome.
And it looks good too, Cerakoted, and yeah, it's cool looking.
Yep, yep. Well, and you know, that's one of those things that, you know, I think that when you find that you need that in a semi-automatic platform, you know, money's not an object.
And you're not going to get much cheaper than that anyways, so it's not like they're outlandishly expensive compared to everybody else that does the same thing. There's
No, you're right. So I think it's a good deal. And you know, I think it does come with the scope at that price point.
Which, you know, that's probably a third of it, at least, I would say, right there. So.
Yeah. No. That's without the scope. What was I seeing? Oh yeah, the really big setup is a $15,000 setup, but it's got like a scope and a bipod and magazines, case. It has a threaded barrel. It might even come with a suppressor.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I mean,
A body servant to carry your rifle for you.
I think it's a Sherpa.
Yeah. There you go.
But so I mean, it was nice to shoot. It was really kind of it was a once in a lifetime thing. You know, I don't know that I will ever get to the point where I can buy a rifle that is that much rifle for any good reason that I can justify to myself. Now, of course, you know, you win the lottery and all bets are off.
Exactly.
But so you know, it was a great rifle though. You know, one of the next things is, you know, harkens back to our show a couple weeks ago, but it's the Trijicon VCOG.
Oh yeah.
And I got a chance to get trigger time on that. I tell you, it's everything that I wanted it to be, and more, because they just raised the price.
Wow, they raised the price?
They did, and you know, they explained it, that they said, you know, we got to a point where we weren't happy with some of the internals and their quality, and we sourced other supplies, and those other suppliers just ended up being more expensive.
Wow.
All right, I get that.
Sure.
You know, it's a $2,800 scope now.
Oh.
And so, you know, you have to start asking yourself, well, at $2,800, why don't I just go buy a Night Force?
Yeah.
And so
it does do some things that the Night Force
thoughts.
doesn't do, which is, you know, the self-illuminated without a battery power, which is good. Because the VCOG still has a fiber optic in the back, doesn't it?
I don't think it does.
Oh, it doesn't? Oh,
No.
man. Yeah, not worth it anymore.
You know, I mean, yeah, you can take the VCOG off and use it as a hammer.
True. But
You know.
like I said, though, if you're going to do, just get an ACOG and then get an RMR, and now you've got your 4 power and your 1 power.
Right,
Or,
right.
And you're still at less than $2,000.
Yep.
So, yeah, I thought the VCOG still had some kind of secondary illumination, either it was tritium still or something. Yeah, it doesn't look like it has fiber optic, but maybe it's tritium.
That's adjustable brightness settings.
Yeah, I could be
It's
wrong.
LED illuminated first focal plane BDC reticle.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, it is just an LED. Yeah, not worth $2,800 at that price.
You know, I would say that there is probably $2,800 worth of materials
Oh.
and workmanship and quality in it. But like you said, where do I draw the line between what I can use and what they're selling?
Exactly.
They're selling me something that is far more than I need. So, I mean, I'm torn because I really see that, as being a part of the, it's sitting at the ideal place where I want to be. And so what I have to figure out is how to get there at a price point that is not going to choke me.
Sure.
So, if I can find, what was that?
Yeah. I love Vortex, and their 1-6 Viper is its first focal plane, illuminated 1-6, about the same size, so, and half the price. They're like $1,400. So.
I did talk to one of the guys over there about their optics, and I looked through them, I manipulated them, and I couldn't tell a difference. They have the feel of quality. They have the hallmarks of quality. And so, I'm beginning to gain that confidence one does with a product before you've actually paid money and, learned any lessons.
Sure.
So I'm at that point where I'm like, you know what, I think I could spend some money on one of these and try it out and feel okay.
Yeah. I love them.
My biggest problem is always there's that whole world of scopes that are coming in from China, and you don't know which ones they are. You can guess which ones they are based on price tag, but on many of them there is no place that'll tell you where they're coming from, and they do that for a reason, because they know you wouldn't buy it if you knew it was from China.
Yeah, exactly.
But the Vortex, that Viper that you're talking about, they were saying that the glass is made in Japan and they're assembled in the Philippines.
Yep.
All right, well, that gives me a little more confidence in it. I'm a little more enthused about it now because, I'm comfortable with the Japanese manufacturing system, the industry, because there's a great deal more attention to detail.
Yep. And unless you go German or something, that's about the best glass you're going to get nowadays.
Right.
So
the Trijicon VCOG, it was everything that I was hoping it would be. It's just even more expensive. So, well, tell me about the Magpul AK magazines you see.
Yeah, I heard that these are coming before SHOT Show, and I heard that they're making 2 variants, and I didn't know if they had any of the second variant at the show that you guys got to see, because the first ones supposedly are going to be all polymer, with the tabs and everything, that the locking tabs on the that rock into the receiver made out of polymer, and they said they're going to be like their sport magazines to play around with, and that they'll come out with a second version with a metal sleeve to be almost kind of like a Lancer magazine, like a Lancer AR mag, but with metal inserts over the magazine to actually lock into the gun so that they're a little more durable. But I haven't actually seen any of them at all yet, so I was wondering if you'd seen any of the ones with the metal, if they had any of the demo ones out there with the metal attachment points.
Well, I did not get a chance to see any of the AK stuff when I was out there. I did get a chance to talk to one of their senior marketing men about their move, and so that was kind of exciting. But
yeah,
the Magpul booth is one of those booths that you go into, and it's swarmed. I mean, it is just covered up. And of course, that's exciting for the company. But I've never been able to get in there and get my hands on the stuff I want to see.
Yep. It's like that every year.
And it's amazing. You go to like FN, Remington, all these other booths, and by and large, they're, people are, browsing in and out, and it's a great big expansive booth with no people. But
yep.
Now I will say that Remington wasn't that way this year, but I looked at SIG, and they had some nice stuff, and they just weren't totally swamped. And you know what? It may be the way that Magpul has it set up. Now they have the one wall, and everything's on the wall, and So everybody's at the same place trying to reach over everybody else to get their hands on something that's sitting on the wall.
That's true. Yeah, I want them to come out with an AK stock because that's the only thing that I need, really, for an
Well,
AK.
do you think, where are we now on the AK? Is there a domestic manufacturer that is able to kind of get around all of the 922R restrictions?
There's
or
not,
are they all,
they're all
still imported?
imports. Yeah, because even the high-end stuff like the Arsenals are still technically imported guns. There's nobody here that's actually making an AK pattern rifle, and I don't know why.
I wonder if it isn't licensing and intellectual property, your patents.
Yeah, the Russians never cared about our patents, so why do we care about theirs?
Well, because we abide by the rule of law, not the law of men.
Yeah, I don't know. For a almost 70-year-old design at this point, you would think that you'd be able to make it, or somebody would make something close enough to get around that. But
at the same time, Klishnikov just died, and I think what was it? It's been a long time since I took patent law, so I'm not even going to open my mouth and embarrass myself.
Well, and that was one of the things that was the deal with Klishnikov is he was always poor because everything belongs to the state. It was communist Russia, so he didn't actually own any of the patents or any of that kind of stuff. That stuff was all owned by the government. So I guess that would be who you're fighting for that kind of stuff. If Remington or somebody wanted to make an AK now, they'd have the NKVD down their necks.
Well, I don't know. After the NSA leaks, I'm kind of wondering if the NSA is a little more scary.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's true.
Well, in any case. So, I didn't get a chance to see the Magpul AK mags, but, I'm really not sure where they are in all that process now, since they've, I guess, been playing catch up with some things that I think really kind of sidelined their intentions in the last year. I'm
sure, because of the move and all that kind of stuff, everything probably got put a little bit on the back burner, especially bigger stuff like that, because they did come out with the AK pistol grip, and I threw one of those on my gun, but yeah, I feel like they were moving along farther than that, but they didn't.
Well, that was one of the things that we found out from Rock River Arms. The AR-47, they've been taking pre-orders for that for most of this year, if not from the previous year. And my understanding was they just couldn't get to it because of all of the other production demands. When they're pulling the house down to get all the rest of the stuff out of your hands. How can you turn your production capacity to a new line
that's true.
Untested, unfielded, to take away what you already have orders 8 deep at the door.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't even like they were selling out. It was that they couldn't make them fast enough to meet the demand. So what machine are you going to turn over to that new production when you're already selling? Like that's just a stupid business move. If you can sell out every day for as long as you can make the stuff that you're already making, then don't make anything new.
So, they hope that they'll be releasing it soon. I'd like to see one. I'd like to buy one.
Yeah.
That's one of those calibers that when you have that tropical island castaway conversation. What would you take? Well, think about it. The 7.62x39 round has probably got a higher proliferation point than anything in the world.
Yeah, there was for a while there was talk about a rifle like this being developed for special operations forces, so that they only had to take a couple of mags with them, and then they could essentially live off the land. You smoke somebody and then take his mags, and so and that's exactly what it's be good for.
Well, we'll have to wait and see if they can actually get around to getting those on their production queue this year, but I think that's exciting. Well, we have one final thing, and I think this was kind of this spoke to me as being one of the biggest things in firearms in a long time because it was new. I mean, new in a way that we haven't seen new. You know, they came out with Glock in the 80s, and that might have been the last big new thing. And, you know, sure, everybody was trying to field a striker-fired pistol, but it was all based on essentially what Glock had come up with as a concept, and they were filling in the edges. You know, everything that has a hammer and a standard trigger in the pistol market was just kind of, you know, developing on Browning's designs, you know, whatever other, you know, bread and butter designs are out there. But I don't think anything has come along that mirrors the Remington R-51 since Peterson put it into effect in the early 1900s.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say it's funny that you're saying it's new because I thought this was the Peterson Model 51 that they made 100 years ago almost.
And you know, they re-engineered it.
Yeah, absolutely.
They brought it up to, you know, what modern metallurgy, what modern engineering, what modern manufacturing can do for a pistol. It is reimagined. It is an old design, but it is the first new thing I've seen probably since the Glock. And you know, I'm probably gonna have, you know, a dozen people talk to me about, you know, some strange one-off, you know, what's he use it from here or there or the other place. But you know, Remington's basically putting this into a mainline production category and saying, well, this is going to be a line of pistols that we're going to sell, not just a onesie twosies vaporware kind of deal.
Sure.
And to me, that kind of evokes a sense of confidence that Remington's going to stand behind it to this degree.
And it's delayed blowback, right?
Yeah, it's got some kind of a floating block breech.
That's cool. Is it plus P rated?
I believe it is.
That's good. Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it's neat. It's definitely, if you want a single stack carry gun, it'd be one of the ones I'd be looking at for sure.
Right. And
is it polymer frame or aluminum frame?
I think it's alloy frame.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's a plus in my opinion.
Yeah, and the hammer is tucked into the frame, so it's not an exposed hammer. The shape of the pistol, the form of the pistol, is essentially like any of the D-Bird pistols that you're going to see.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the old pocket auto, like the 1909, the old, yeah.
Yep, it absolutely does. And you know, my understanding is there's an R-53. The Peterson's 53 model was the 45 that was trying to compete with the 1911, and the war broke out.
Oh yeah, you're only going to make one if you got to make a billion.
Yeah, and you know, the 1911 was already in the armory at the time. It was the duty pistol of its age.
Yep.
But when did we enter the war?
41. No, you're talking about that war.
World War
1917.
It was 1917. There was a pistol trial before that, and they just said, "All right, well, never mind. You know, let's go with what we know."
Yeah.
And
we were already shipping them to Britain for a long time before that too. So.
Yeah. So it basically, the R-53, the whole design behind the R-51, it was sidestepped as a result of two global conflicts that it didn't catch the wave. And so now we're all this time later, and someone goes back and looks at it again and says, you know what? You know, maybe this wasn't such a bad idea.
Yep. Yeah, I just got a SIG 938 not too long ago as my single stack 9 backup carry gun. But if I hadn't already invested in that, then this would be one I would be looking at for sure.
Well, you know, I've got the SIG P239, which, I mean, to me, it's a fabulous gun for that purpose. And I know that I had a a cousin in the Secret Service that, or I have a cousin in the Secret Service who carries a backup one, and that's where I developed my affinity for the pistol.
Yeah, I went with the 938 just because it's essentially, oh, I got it here. It's essentially a micro 1911.
Right.
So I'm carrying this one all the time as my combat commander. So I might as well, if I'm going to carry something smaller, have exactly the same controls and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, so the R-51 to me it says that innovation isn't dead. Yes, it's not their design, it's Peterson's design. They own it. But, for someone to say, well, let's go into the back catalog and see what we have here. Let's try to reimagine something instead of just taking what they're doing, now and, putting a new finish on it or a new polish on it, a new something on it and calling it new.
Yep.
So that to me is inspiring.
Remington is the one really big company that can really do that because they haven't been making handguns forever. So until they came out with their 1911s not too long ago, which are pretty nice, then they didn't have something that they had to just kind of fall in step on, like Glock and now Smith & Wesson with the M&P line, and they're not going to come out with some crazy new thing from the Glock company. It's going to look like a Glock. It's going to be a Glock forever.
Right.
So Remington kind of had some leeway to go in a totally different direction because they didn't have something else that they had to match up to, basically.
Yep, that's right. Well, so that was kind of my, impression of some of the highlights there of the SHOT Show and my takeaways. So really when it comes down to it, you look at FN and it says that the AR market's going to be here for a while. I think EoTech, they're trying to innovate with products that have been a part of the landscape for years. Robinson, the LAR-47, Desert Tactical Arms, Miller Precision. These are examples of, the variation in the platform, the variation in the ideas that are going to lead to evolutions beyond the platform. The XCR and the MDR, that's nothing. That's not an AR.
Yep.
That's the next generation of MBR, main battle rifle. The tactical fire control trigger. You're talking about something that's just kind of the leading edge of a new way to use what we all know. Trijicon, I think it's a pinnacle mechanism. Of course, we talk about the price, but it's got every bit that price point of workmanship, quality materials, and companies standing behind it. You just have to figure out if that's where you want to spend your money and if that's what you want sitting on your AR. Magpul mags, of course, the AK, they're always knocking on the back door. And then finally, Remington, when it comes to innovation, I think that's probably a prime example of the fact that we can still innovate in this market, in this industry, and bring new products to the table that people are going to want to buy. So I think all things being equal, it says to me that all is well in the firearms industry in 2014, and I think we've got lots of good things to hope for in the next 12 months.
Yeah. That'll be interesting to see over the next year or so when things start to calm down, where some of this development leads to. Because like you said, I feel like a lot of stuff has been stagnated over the last, even since like 2008 even. And especially in the last year or so, just because people are trying to play catch up.
Yeah.
And now that we've fought some major battles on the Second Amendment front and kind of won almost all of them, hopefully that'll give some confidence to the market and to some of the companies that are holding out on doing something innovative, because they don't want to spend $10 million, build a factory, and then have their product be made illegal 6 months later. And go out of business. So hopefully some of this innovation will start kicking off in the next year or two. Once, like I said, once some stability comes to the market for this kind of stuff, it'll be very interesting to see where that kind of goes.
Well, I'm pretty excited about it myself. Let's go ahead and wrap up the show. Any other last comments or thoughts?
No, I'll be sure to get you the information on that competition arms program as soon as I can get to work tomorrow. Speaking of, I'll probably have to bow out here. I got to be at work in 5 hours and 45 minutes. So.
All right. Well, that's fine. I do appreciate you coming on with us, Derek. And as always, it's great to talk to another brother Marine. Semper Fi. Have a good day at work. Be safe, and we'll have you on as soon as we can get you away from your duties and you can spend some time. Yeah,
no kidding. I've put in my leave request for NRA already, so hopefully they won't cancel this one and send me another course. But,
well, now wait a minute. Didn't you go to a cool course even though you missed the SHOT Show?
It was worth going to. I just wish it was, this coming week and not last week. But it was worth doing. But it always seems to be that everything gets approved. I've got all my arrangements made. They're like, oh wait, by the way, last year it was, hey, you're going on a training deployment, so pack your stuff up. Like, you're not going to be back for this. Oh, great. Never mind. So 2 years ago, it was another school that I had to go to. So yeah, it seems like every year since 2011, they've managed to find some reason that I can't go to the SHOT Show. I think people are just jealous that I was coming back with cool stuff, and they want to take my fun away.
Maybe we'll have you back after you get all your issues resolved there. You can start coming to the SHOT Show again.
Yeah, well, one more year, and then they won't be able to tell me what to do anymore. So.
All right.
All right. Have a good one. I'll talk to you later.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and finish up then with some listener feedback. So Tony D writes in. He says, "Hi, just started listening to your podcast yesterday and find it very informative. I can't wait to listen to the past shows. I'm new to the AR world, so this is a great resource for me. I was wondering if you dropped by the Black Rain Ordnance booth yet and checked out their AR-10s or 15s. Just wondered what were your thoughts or opinions on what they have to offer. Thanks." So, Tony, I wanted to let you know that I did not drop by their booth, but I do like their products. I do own their products, so I like them enough to spend my money there. And, I would encourage you that if Black Rain Ordnance has something that you're excited about, to go ahead and buy it and try it out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Chris writes in, "Reed, just wanted to say I really am enjoying the podcast, generally good information, and it appears you and your multiple co-host guests have fun at it. Had a question for you. You said in the past, and I agree, that most of the AR-15 accuracy comes from the barrel and then from a good trigger system. How much improvement do you think a billet receiver adds over a forged receiver, if any? Is the increased cost, generally at least 2 times plus, over a forged receiver worth it, and do you have any idea how much it can add to the accuracy? Or is it mostly a bling addition on the part of the buyer-builder? Thanks, and keep up the podcast, especially like the 2-part scope podcast with the variety of input and comments by all the participants." Thanks. Well, Chris, thanks for writing in. And, when it comes to your upper receiver, I don't think you're going to find a difference between a forged or a billet receiver. Sorry about that. But no, I don't think you're going to find a difference between the two. There is a tool that is a let's see, what would you call it? It's going to basically ream the upper receiver, the receiving hole for your barrel extension, and it's going to true up the face of your receiver so that when you're setting your barrel extension into your upper receiver, it is going to be as flat and square and true to the threads as you can get. So if you want to invest in that, I think that is about the only piece of improvement you're going to get in a receiver. So Eric F. writes in, I've got a question. I finished building my 5.56 AR-15 lower and purchased a strip upper, only to find a complete upper at a decent price, so I purchased it. Now here's my question. What are the other caliber options that will work with a standard strip upper receiver? Yes, I'm aware I would need a matching barrel, bolt carrier group, and caliber specific mag as well, but what are my other caliber options since I have an extra standard stripped upper receiver lying around? Well, really when it comes down to it, anytime this becomes an option, it's mostly about finding a combination that is going to fit within the confines of the mag well that you've got on your AR. So if you're sitting here with a AR-15, you're going to have, I want to say like 2.62, I'm probably a little off, a little over 2.5 inches, I'm guessing, of magazine space for your cartridge. Some of the more common ones that you're going to see in the AR-15 lowers are going to be like 7.62 by 39, 6.5 Grendel, 50 Beowulf, 4.58 SOCOM, 204 Ruger. I know we had a listener write in about that. And in many of the instances, you can actually keep your 223 bolt and bolt carrier group. So like with a 204 Ruger and 300 Blackout, you're basically using a 223 cartridge that's been necked up or down to accommodate whatever bullet you're going to put into that cartridge. There is a pretty extensive list, and depending on where you go with the particular choice, you might find yourself not having to replace a lot of parts, and sometimes you're replacing all of it. So explore and see what it is you want, but I think there may be as many as 40, 50 different calibers that I've seen mentioned in a discussion that would lead to compatibility in the AR-15 lower. So obviously I guess that just opens the door wide for you and makes it a little harder to figure out where you need to go with it. But I would say have no worries. You're going to have a whole lot of choices available to you. So Eric, Chris, Tony, I hope that answers your questions, and thanks for writing in. We do appreciate it. And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and close up the show. So we always like to have you guys go out to the iTunes listener feedback segment and give some feedback. It's a great way for you to let other listeners on iTunes know what you think about the podcast, and it helps the podcast get better reviews, better search responses, so when someone is looking for this kind of talk, they can find it. When it when it comes down to it, all we really are trying to do is pass on information to you. So know that I do appreciate the feedback. I do appreciate you guys reaching out to me. I did have an opportunity to take up an invitation to go have lunch with one of the listeners. Michael C. Came in from California, and I was very pleased to have him graciously invite me to lunch. We sat and talked at length about some of his accomplishments in the shooting sports, and I don't think I embarrassed myself too seriously, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. But here's just a shout out to Michael C. and thanks again for the lunch. But don't be afraid to write me an email and tell me that you have an opinion. Don't be afraid to write me an email and say you want some information. It's all about getting better and becoming better educated and trying to pass as much information as we can on to each other so that we can all get better at this and we can all enjoy what it is we all enjoy doing. So with that, let me go ahead and end the show. So send any questions or comments to feedback@ar15podcast.com, or you can write me direct at read@ar15podcast.com. Record a voicemail using the SpeakPipe plugin on the right-hand side of the AR15podcast.com website. You can also follow the Firearms Radio Network on Facebook at facebook.com/Firearms Radio. You can follow us on G+. To watch live, go to firearmsradio.tv/plus. Don't forget to check out the podcast on the Firearms Radio Network. Subscribe and listen for free at Firearms Radio TV/iTunes, and be sure to leave an iTunes review. Finally, don't forget to use our Brownells affiliate link for all your AR-15 parts. You can go to ar15podcast.com/AR-15 parts to get all of your parts needs resolved by Brownells. So with that, we're going to say goodnight, and we will see you next week.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. You can find more information at firearmsradio.tv.